Good morning. This is Justine Wettschreck with KWOA. I'm talking today with Republican candidate Jim Hagedorn for the 1st Congressional District. What brings you to town today?
Well, thanks for the opportunity, Justine. We're in to see some Republican leaders, and of course this weekend on Saturday at 1:30 in Adrian, we've got the county convention here for Nobles County. So we're excited to, we're running the race hard, and we're excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happens at the county convention?
Well, the county convention is made up of GOP activists and their delegates and alternates, and they will decide at that convention who gets elected to the district convention and the state convention. It's at the district convention in Albert Lea on April 5th that my fate as the Republican nominee will be decided.
Well, that sounds scary.
Oh,
Having your fate decided.
Well, it's an exciting process, and I love talking to the people of the grassroots of the Republican Party, because I truly believe that if we're going to take back our country, it's got to start at the grassroots. We see what's going on in Washington, D.C., the type of leadership that both parties are getting, and we need a new course.
Well, I know that we've talked before, and you had some special thoughts about some of the things going on in some of the rural areas.
Well, the rural areas of the 1st District are critical, especially if we're trying to defeat Tim Walz, who's the most liberal congressman in the history of southern Minnesota. And agriculture is the backbone of our economy. Farmers' interest of the ag groups is very critical to the people here in the rural areas. And look at the rural communities and everyone here dependent on agriculture, from businesses to other shopkeepers and so forth. And so we not only talk about the issues and delve into them with the various farmers and ag groups, but we've been out here campaigning extensively in the rural areas so far in this campaign.
As you've been talking to the people in the rural areas, what are some of their biggest concerns?
Oh, the biggest concerns I hear from farmers over and again are regulations coming out of Washington, D.C., mostly regulations out of Obama's out-of-control EPA. And these regulations are hampering farmers' ability to do their jobs, to get out there and just do their farming. They have to ask too much permission now from government. They're being restricted. Their costs are being driven up, and consumer costs are going up because of this. And you look at regulations across the board and what they're doing to hamper business and farming and drive up people's costs. In just one look at energy and the regulations coming out of EPA to basically bankrupt the coal industry of this country. That's going to make everyone pay higher electricity rates, and in turn take more money out of their disposable income. And people are having a hard time getting ahead because of it.
Any thoughts on the propane situation?
Well, I think there again we have regulations out of Washington and even at the state level hampering the ability of the private sector from building the pipelines, refineries, and distribution points necessary to make sure that we efficiently use all the American energy resources that we have. We are 100% self-sufficient of propane in the United States, and yet we have these bottlenecks and these spot shortages. It's mostly caused by government standing in the way of the private sector being able to do its job.
I know you and I have talked before, but maybe we should remind the listeners real quick. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and why you decided to get involved with this?
Well, I've been a part of national politics for some time, dating back to when I was a supporter of Ronald Reagan's at the age of 12. But I was born in Blue Earth, Minnesota, raised on a grain and livestock farm just outside of Truman, Minnesota. My father, grandfather, great-grandfather, all Minnesota farmers. My father was a congressman for some time, from 1974 to 1982, in the old 2nd District. And I worked for a Minnesota congressman named Stanglin. He was a good hog farmer from the northwest part of the state. When I was in Washington working for him, we did important things like work for welfare, which I think is critically important to reforming our welfare system, Second Amendment rights, which we always have to protect to make sure that we have the ultimate protection against even our own government, and then things like right to life and broad-based tax reform. After that, I served a stint as an executive within the United States Treasury Department, and I identified inefficiency within my agency, received permission to take a bill to the Congress, moved it through the Congress, which cut my own agency. We closed government check-writing centers, eliminated bureaucrat jobs, and my ideas saved the taxpayers over $1.5 billion. So that's the type of mentality and fight that I take to this job, and that's why I want to go to Congress to help the people.
Why now?
It's critically important that we take back our country at this time. if Obamacare is allowed to be the fabric of medicine, if cap and trade that's coming out of the EPA is allowed to be our energy policy, if Dodd-Frank is allowed to be our financial policy in this country, and on it goes with all the spending programs. If we don't do something in the next few years, we're going to lose the United States as the forefathers put it together. I tell people this isn't an election about the direction of the country. This is an election about the survival of the United States as the forefathers intended. And so I think they need someone like myself who can make an immediate impact in the House Republican caucus, someone with some experience, but I've also demonstrated the ability to be in Washington, maneuver in that system, defeat the left, support conservative and make conservative reform, and also still be a good Minnesotan and a good person.
Again, we're talking to Jim Hagedorn, who is one of the candidates for the 1st Congressional District. Anything else that you wanted to be sure to bring up today?
Well, just, Congressman Walz has voted for all these big government programs, and the people have gotten to a point where their government is so powerful that they're afraid of the government. And we're not going to be able to, for instance, repeal and replace Obamacare until we reject and replace the people that voted for it. In this case, Congressman Walz. So there's a very striking contrast between the liberal congressman who's for expanding government and a conservative challenger who has a record of fighting the government and making the bureaucracy smaller. So we're just excited to continue to take this contrast to the people and to get to know the people as best as possible as we do it.
Okay. This event that's coming up on Saturday, is that something that's open to the public?
Well, the guests and visitors can come by and observe. Okay. We're excited about what's going on in the Republican Party and about the grassroots efforts to take back our country. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the delegates and alternates and to try to give them a stem winder of a speech there on Saturday.
All right. Well, thanks for your time today, Jim. We sure appreciate it, and we'll keep up with you as the election gets closer.
Thank you, Justine.